I said over my dead body, I have banned all the export of unprocessed minerals from here. Let them stay in the ground. When the grandchildren come, they will get them out.
The Western world was caught off guard by a bold and unapologetic statement from Uganda's president, Yoweri Museveni. There were no polite words or hidden meanings, just a firm stance, loud and clear. It wasn't just a political speech, it was a powerful rejection of a global system that has drained Africa's wealth for generations, giving little back in return. Now the big question is, how far is Museveni willing to go? Let's break it down. Behind closed doors, international deals are often made without the knowledge or input of the people they'll affect most. But this time, that wasn't the case. Not in Uganda. Not while Museveni is in charge. Things started off like they always do. A polished group of foreign investors came to Uganda, full of big promises. Their proposal? To ship Uganda's iron ore overseas completely raw, without any processing done locally. And they weren't just suggesting it. They assumed Uganda would agree, just like in the past. These deals usually happen quietly, quickly, and unfairly. But this time, they faced a leader who wasn't playing by the usual rules. Museveni didn't just say no, he shut the door entirely. He firmly announced a ban on exporting raw minerals, including iron ore. But this wasn't just about turning down one deal. It was a clear signal of change, a sign that Uganda, and maybe more countries in Africa, are ready to take a different path. Museveni is setting new rules. If foreign companies want access to Uganda's resources, they'll have to help build up the country too. No more taking without giving back. The question now is whether other African leaders will follow his lead. This could be a turning point. To understand how bold this move really is, you need to know what iron ore means to Uganda. The country sits on a huge supply of top-quality iron, millions of tons of it. That kind of resource could completely reshape Uganda's future. But if history is any guide, things don't usually work out that way. Too often, Africa's natural wealth has been taken and used to benefit outsiders, while the people who live on the land see little in return. Museveni saw that pattern and refused to let it repeat. He knows the global system doesn't ask Africa what it wants. It tells Africa what to do. And when it comes to mining and minerals, the cycle is always the same. Dig, export, repeat. Uganda was expected to stay in that role forever, just a source of raw goods, never the producer. But with one strong decision, Museveni changed the game. And this isn't only about economics, it's about control. A country that sends away its raw materials, only to buy back finished products at higher prices, stays stuck. It can't move forward. It's like eating leftovers while someone else enjoys the full meal you made. Museveni understood that the stakes were higher than just one deal. Uganda's future, its growth, and its independence were on the line. But this shift didn't happen overnight. Uganda has been laying the foundation for years, building roads, improving energy supply with new dams, and training young engineers and tech workers. Museveni didn't sit back waiting for help from outside. He started preparing Uganda to rise on its own. So when he blocked raw iron exports, it wasn't about isolating the country. It was about protecting its wealth and using it to create jobs, grow industries, and build a future controlled by Ugandans. That's the deeper meaning of his choice. He's not shutting out business, he's reshaping how it works. President Museveni is changing the rules of the game. Foreign companies can no longer come into Uganda, take the country's iron ore, and leave. If they want access to these resources, they must invest in Uganda itself. That means building factories, processing plants, and training centers right on Ugandan soil. It means creating real jobs, training local engineers, and helping develop lasting infrastructure and skills, not just offering empty promises and walking away with the profits. This shift challenges how global business has treated Africa for decades. Uganda is no longer willing to just be the starting point of someone else's supply chain. It's working to become the heart of its own industrial future. But bold moves like this don't come without pushback. As soon as this policy was announced, the pressure began. Foreign governments called, trade partners issued warnings, and financial institutions quietly sent their disapproval. The message was clear: back off. But Museveni didn't move an inch. He's seen what happens when African leaders give in to that kind of pressure. He knows how quickly progress can be reversed when the IMF or World Bank steps in with bailouts that come with strings attached. This isn't just about mining, it's about mindset. For years, African leaders were told that selling raw materials was the path to success. Dig more, export more. Growth would follow. Museveni is calling that idea out as false. And he's not alone in thinking this, but he's one of the few leaders willing to say it openly and act on it. That's why this moment could be a turning point not just for Uganda, but for how Africa deals with the rest of the world. This is bigger than a policy change. It's the start of a shift in power, a quiet revolution. Let's be clear. Iron ore isn't just a metal. It's a symbol. Iron has built empires, armed revolutions, and shaped nations. And now, in Uganda, it's become something deeper, a line between being exploited and being independent. Museveni didn't draw that line with vague speeches or soft diplomacy. He drew it with conviction and clarity. His message is simple. If you want Uganda's iron, help build something meaningful with it here. If not, it stays in the ground. This isn't isolationism, it's progress. And it takes real courage to take this stand. Not just political will, but a belief in principle. That's when real change begins. When one African country takes a bold step, others start to pay attention. Museveni's stance isn't just his own. It's the latest chapter in a long struggle that goes back generations. To understand why his words matter so much, you have to look at history. For centuries, Africa's wealth, its people and resources have been taken abroad to build prosperity elsewhere. One pattern has always stayed the same. Africa supplies. The rest of the world profits. This isn't just about Uganda or iron ore. It's about a system that was carefully built not by accident, but by design. And at its center lies a harsh truth. The global rules weren't made to benefit Africa. Since the first European ships landed on its shores, the goal has been clear: extract and leave. First, it was people millions taken as slaves. Then rubber. Then gold. Diamonds, oil, and uranium. The same cycle every time. Dig it out, ship it away, make money somewhere else. And what was left behind? Pollution, poverty, and a continent constantly told to wait its turn. That old story is starting to fall apart, and Uganda may be the one turning the page. President Museveni isn't just banning the export of raw iron ore. He's calling out an entire global system that has long exploited Africa. Think about how the West used Africa's wealth. Sudan's cotton didn't stay in Africa, it was spun into fabric in British factories. South Africa's gold was taken to build European power and fill their treasuries. Meanwhile, top executives in New York and Paris sipped expensive coffee sourced from Uganda and Ethiopia. Copper from the Congo helped run early American telegraphs, and eventually, the entire global communication network. But the extraction didn't stop there. All that wealth taken from African soil helped fund something massive. The industrial revolutions in Europe and America were partly fueled by what was taken from Africa. That money helped build major banks, elite universities, railway networks, and the cutting-edge technologies of the West. And while skyscrapers rose in Europe, African countries had to borrow money to fix dusty roads leading to mines they didn't own. But it wasn't just about money. It was about disrespect, too. Even today, Africa is called developing, as if it's simply slow to catch up, as if centuries of theft were just misfortunes, not a system. As if the sweat, labor, and land of Africans weren't the real foundation of global power. Museveni's move is about more than keeping Uganda's iron in the country. It's about rejecting a broken system and challenging the old story. It's about demanding that the truth be acknowledged and corrected. Here's the truth few are willing to say out loud. Africa didn't fall behind by accident. It was held back on purpose. When colonial powers built railways, they weren't meant for moving people, they were built to move goods. The trains didn't lead to schools or hospitals. They went straight from the mines to the ports. The rules they made weren't meant to help build Africa. They were designed to make taking from Africa easier. Even when independence came, it wasn't clean. It came with fine print, backroom deals, and political threats. If all else failed, force was used. Museveni is trying to bring that machine to a stop because he's seen what happens when African nations keep playing by those rules. Look at Liberia. Foreign companies still control vast rubber plantations. Ghana grows much of the world's cocoa, but local farmers often live in poverty. In Niger, French firms extract uranium, but most people nearby still don't have electricity. That's not real trade. That's exploitation dressed up in the language of development and progress. Few leaders are brave enough to call it out like Museveni. The West didn't become rich just by being clever. It got rich by draining Africa's wealth, by extracting resources without offering the tools or knowledge needed to benefit from them. Now, Uganda is setting a new boundary. That's why the iron ore ban is about more than just one mineral. It's about saying no to being the starting point of someone else's profit. Because the global economy starts to change the moment African countries begin turning their own resources, gold into jewelry, cocoa into chocolate, lithium into batteries. Suddenly, the West can't just take any more. It has to compete. It has to actually offer value. And that scares them. So they dress up their trade deals with nice phrases like capacity building or foreign aid, polished language that hides the truth. They want Africa to stay dependent. They say, stick to your strengths, as a way to stop African nations from building industries that actually benefit them, because those industries would cut into Western profits. Museveni knows exactly how this game has been played. He's seen African presidents smile for cameras and shake hands with world leaders while back home, their countries quietly lose everything. He's heard the same people who once treated Africa like a place stuck in the past now call it the future, as if that erases the damage already done. But Museveni isn't looking for applause. He's not asking for approval. He's taking a different path and calling on other African nations to do the same. Because everything changes when Africa keeps its own oil, refines its own iron, and holds onto its gold. The continent stops being just a source of raw materials and starts becoming a place of real value. It shifts from being exploited to being respected. And Museveni's message is clear. Africa has already paid the price. Now, it's time to profit. And if that challenges the old system, so be it. That system was never designed with Africa in mind anyway. This fight isn't just about minerals or money. It's about something deeper: people. Especially the millions of young Africans who dream of a better life, but wake up with no job and no clear path forward. Because every time raw materials are shipped out of Africa without being processed, something bigger leaves too. Opportunity leaves. Jobs leave. Chances to learn, grow, and build something lasting gone. Nobody likes to talk about that part. But when Africa exports unprocessed iron, copper, coffee, oil, or gold, it doesn't just lose a product, it loses the chance to build an entire future. Those shipments carry away the chance to create good jobs, train skilled workers, build factories, and grow a strong middle class. What's left behind? Young people with degrees working odd jobs or sitting idle. A generation full of energy and potential, but stuck surviving instead of thriving. Museveni knows this well. He's studied the numbers for years. Uganda's population is growing fast. More than 70% of the people are under 30. Every year, hundreds of thousands of young Ugandans enter the job market, eager for work. But where do they go? The truth is, many go nowhere. There aren't enough jobs. Why? Because Uganda doesn't process its own resources. There are no factories, no major manufacturing hubs, no local value chains. The minerals stop at the mine, get loaded onto ships, and disappear overseas. And Museveni is saying, that ends now. This is where the damage hits hardest. In other countries, thousands of miles away, workers are paid to process Uganda's resources, while Ugandan youth struggle to find work. The iron from Uganda is melted and shaped in Asian factories. The gold is refined and stored in Swiss banks. The coffee gets roasted and packaged in Europe, then sold in fancy shops for high prices. Jobs are created all along that process, but not in Uganda. This isn't just bad economics. It's a quiet betrayal, a theft of the hopes and futures of millions of young Africans. That's why Museveni isn't banning raw exports just to make more money. He's doing it to create real jobs at home, so that Ugandans can stay in their own country, raise families, and build their future right where they belong. Let's put this into perspective with a simple example: a steel mill. If Uganda only exports raw iron ore, maybe a few hundred people get jobs mostly in mining and transport. But if Uganda builds a steel plant to process that iron at home, everything changes. But if that iron stays in Uganda and gets processed into steel right here, it can change everything. Thousands of jobs could be created: jobs for welders, engineers, technicians, plant supervisors, accountants, delivery crews, marketers, and machine operators. These aren't just titles. These are people feeding their families, building their communities, and supporting each other. And that's just one factory. Imagine what could happen if Uganda applied the same idea to other industries. What if the country roasted, ground, and packaged its coffee before selling it? Or turned its gold into jewelry or electronics instead of shipping it out in raw form? This isn't only about jobs, it's about growth, self-reliance, national pride, and real independence. Museveni understands that, and that's exactly why the powerful nations are uncomfortable. The moment African countries stop exporting raw goods, they stop sending jobs overseas. And when they start producing their own finished products, they stop being just customers, they become competitors. And here's what many don't want to admit. When Africa competes, it often wins. But reaching that point takes real courage. It means standing up not just to foreign investors offering fast cash, but also to the old habits and systems that have kept the continent stuck for generations. Let's speak the truth. Focusing only on exporting raw materials may seem like progress, but it quietly weakens a country from the inside. Museveni's export ban isn't about shutting the door, it's about stopping the damage. Like a tourniquet, it might feel tight and uncomfortable, but it's stopping the bleeding. Will it be easy? Not at all. Some investors will walk away. Some deals will fall apart. But that's not failure. It's filtering out the wrong partners. The right ones will stay. and they'll grow alongside Uganda. Because jobs are more than numbers in a report, they are the heartbeat of a country. Without them, people lose more than income. They lose hope, purpose, and pride. And without hope, there's no peace, no progress, and no unity. Museveni knows this isn't just an economic policy, it's a reset for the future. It's not about rejecting global trade, it's about asking for fairness. A trade that leaves something behind: factories, skills, schools, and steady work for the people. He's shifting the balance. For too long, Africa has been the supplier while others built wealth. That story is changing. Africa is now shaping its own path. And it starts with jobs. Uganda isn't just holding on to its resources, it's taking control of its future. Step by step, one industry at a time. Do you think Africa is on the verge of real transformation? What's your view on Museveni's bold decision? Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe the global media will try to twist the story after this? Would you like more content like this that highlights African strength and leadership? If so, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more.